Hi guys, it's Erin. Today's the day. We're finally getting our dahlia tubers in the ground. I wanted to walk you through how I do it. It's a little different, well, it's a lot different than if you're gonna just put them in your garden beds. So I'll walk you through the difference. You should have seen already my process for prepping the beds. So I'll walk you through that a little bit, what we did and why, and then how I plant them, and then I'll just get them all in the ground, and then we can wait for the blooms. So the way that I do this, here, I'll turn it around. You saw putting in the stake or the T-posts in the ground, and then dragging the trenches that I did for the tubers, and then spread some fertilizer, some organic fertilizer. So this soil has already been amended. Sorry if you hear John, he's mowing the lawn. He's excited to be off of his restrictions from surgery. So this soil has already been amended pretty heavily with compost, a good fish fertilizer. And then I added Biotone. It's an organic starter fertilizer to the soil. The drip irrigation is already run. I just have one line per row of, I just have one line per row of dahlias. We have 3 rows for dahlias. Each row has 2 rows in it. I space mine about 1.5 feet apart. It's about 1.5 feet for each row, and then I will plant my dahlias 1 foot apart all the way down, which means in 3 rows, these are 40-foot rows, I can get 240 dahlias in here, which is enough for me. We're a tiny farm. I don't have room. I wish that I had room, but I don't have room to have a whole field full of dahlias. They'd be just gorgeous, but I don't have room for that. So what I've done is I've made a map, and I've mapped out each row, how many of each variety on either side of the row is going in. I have, like I said, about 240 tubers. The way that I plant them is about between 2 and 6 inches deep, right around 4 inches, and I plant them like this with the little growth point sticking up, just like this. And then I'll cover them over, and I'll do the next one right about here, and so on, 1 foot apart all the way down. And then you also saw that we put up all of these T-posts. So I like to get those in the ground before I plant my tubers, because I don't want to risk hitting the tubers when I put them in the ground. It's not likely early on, but it's possible. And I can tell you, growing them this close together, they definitely need to be staked up. When you put them in the garden, out in wherever your garden is going to be, if you're not growing them for cut flower production, you're going to want to plant them between 3 and 4 feet apart each, and you can stake them up individually, but in order to get that full show, you really want to give them enough room for that. For me, for my purposes, I'm going to be cutting these stems hard all the time, so they don't necessarily, they're not going to grow to their full potential, so they don't need quite as much space. And despite the rainy sort of reputation that the Pacific Northwest has, in the summertime we're relatively dry, so the powdery mildew and all that kind of worry is less of an issue for us for summer crops, and it's pretty easy to do intensive planting and still get a good result without a lot of disease problems. So from here, I think I've covered everything. The spacing, how many we've got, why we have the T-post. So from this point, I'm just gonna start planting. Like I said, I've got my map. It tells me exactly where everything goes and how many, so I'm just gonna get after it and get them all in today. We're definitely later than I normally would be. Everything's been kind of difficult to get through for me for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's just my normal, I always feel like I'm behind. But the The soil is warm. They shouldn't have any issue getting going, and I'm just gonna go for it. Okay, I'll set the camera up and show you what I'm doing. Alright guys, we got it done. I know it doesn't look like a whole lot right at the moment. I left the bucket out so I can collect rocks. I swear sometimes it feels like we're rock farmers more than we're flower farmers, but it's part of the deal. So I've got all of them in the ground. There's 240 of them. I think that I said that before, but I can't remember. The one last thing that I want to remind you, if you're getting ready to plant your dahlia tubers, is to not water it until you see sprouts coming up. There's a chance, if you live somewhere like I do where there's clay soil, it's not super well draining, it can hold water, and if it holds water and the tubers sit in that, they can rot out. So I put them in the ground, and right now, with as warm as it's getting, it should be okay. Put them in the ground and then wait until you see green before you start watering. These guys, I have the drip irrigation down there, but it's all pulled away so that it'll water around them but not actually on the tubers. So it shouldn't be more than I don't know, a couple weeks before I see some real sprouts. And then once they get going, I'll show you how I pinch them when it comes to that point. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. I'm finally there. Usually I get my tubers in about a month ago, but the weather hasn't really cooperated, and I've just been so busy with everything else it didn't happen. But now they're in, and the future is good for a beautiful summer. All right guys, I hope that you liked this video. If you did, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next go round. Bye guys.